Hello, Linda. Thanks for having me on your program today. I'd like to share with your audience some tips on mold and EMFs, so let's get started. So when we think of mold, we think of something like this. It's black and it's obvious. In reality, that's not how it happens. Mold is not always visible. Mold does not always have an odor. And the most common mold is white, which is aspergillus. Aspergillus grows in damp environments. It grows on people's furnitures and carpeting. It does have a strong smell, so that's an indicator for you to know something's up. I better be checking into this. Most of the molds that grow indoors are capable of producing mycotoxins, which are poisonous to people and animals. So what does mold need to grow? Well, it just needs water or humidity and dust. Some molds will start to grow at 58% relative humidity. That would be the mold like aspergillus. They're very fast growing molds. They can grow quite a bit in just a few days. A lot of basements are well above 60% relative humidity in the summer. That's why we need the dehumidifier. Toxic mold can still be toxic when it's been killed. So often I'm asked, what do I do to kill the mold? Actually, that's not the question you should ask, because dead mold is still going to be toxic. It needs to be removed. Some people say, well, is this a bad mold? And actually, pretty much all the molds that grow indoors are going to be harmful if there's enough of it. So it needs to go. So various reactions can be expected from mold exposure. Some people will react with the common stuffy nose, wheezing, chronic sinus infection, maybe bronchitis, and even pneumonia if it's a severe infestation, and especially in the elderly. But for some particular species of mold, we'll see more of an attack on the neurological system. So we may see some memory loss or slow developing depression, brain fog, confusion. Some people, especially children, may develop skin rashes, and some may develop GI issues like nausea and diarrhea. And of course, some of these molds are carcinogens, so with prolonged exposure, they certainly could cause cancer and even death. So where does mold like to grow? Well, one place that it loves is basements. Because of the humidity, basements get flooded, they have water leakage sometimes. That's a favorite place for mold. The other favorite place is carpeting that's on concrete. If the carpet gets damp from the concrete moisture, it's going to grow mold, and it's going to grow mold very fast, and then eventually we'll have an odor. That's the typical musty odor that we find in basements. The most common place for mold to grow, the one that we see the most, and that's the one that makes people the most sick, is in the furnace on the air conditioning coil. And as you see in this picture here, this particular one was growing little mushrooms, and the person was very sick, and she was sick with actually arthritic type symptoms. So she never really put two and two together that it could be the mold that was actually causing this immune reaction. Other causes of mold would be a leaky tub or a toilet overflow, for example. You clean that up and you don't realize that water is actually seeped under the wall behind the toilet to the side of the toilet, and then mold might be growing in the wall for several weeks or months afterwards, and it will stay there indefinitely until the wall is open. If you have missing caulk in the shower or on the tub, the water can get into the wall from that missing caulk area and can cause mold growth. And a dirty coil, a dirty filter, and of course leakage under a sink or behind a shower. So how do we prevent mold? Keep a dehumidifier in the basement. Keep the relative humidity at 50% or less. Keep your furnace clean. Have your furnace person check your furnace every year and look at the evaporator coil inside the furnace. That's your air conditioning coil that we're seeing here. Other things that we can do is to avoid carpeting on areas that are prone to flooding. Use luxury vinyl, ceramic tile, things like that. Check for small leaks frequently. If you see a small leak, take care of it right away. Don't let it get to the level where it's severe, as in this picture, where now we've got toxic black mold growing in that cabinet, and that cabinet is not salvageable at this point. So why is mold such an issue now? We've had mold for hundreds of years. Why is it such a problem for people now? I think that the answer to that is two-pronged. One is that our immune system has been weakened by EMF exposure, which is getting to be higher and higher every day. And then the other thing that's coming to light now with the research is that mold actually reacts positively, in a sense, to microwave radiation. So it's like cancers and tumors, they grow better when they're near microwave radiation. And the mold is no different. So that brings us to the topic of EMFs. So where are we getting exposed to this microwave radiation, also called RF or radio frequencies, in our home? Well, it's all the gadgets that are wireless. So anything that operates without a wire is wireless, and it is connecting to the other side with microwave radiation. So that would be things like your router, Bluetooth, your wireless mouse, your wireless printer, wireless keyboard, your smart TV, smart fridge, baby monitors, things like that. So what's happening now is, because of this proliferation of wireless gadgets, is that people are becoming electrosensitive, just like we're becoming chemically sensitive because of all the chemicals that we're exposed to. Now people are becoming sensitive to the electropollution. About 3% of the population is recognized themselves as electrosensitive, which means they recognize what's making them sick, that it is when they're exposed to the radiation. But we're estimating that about 30% of the population is affected but hasn't connected the dots yet. So they don't recognize their symptoms as caused by this radiation. However, if we bring that to their attention and they lower their exposure, then their symptoms start to go away. So there are many things that happen when we're exposed to microwave radiation. One thing is that our cortisol levels increase, and so that's your stress-related hormones. It makes your body think that it's in the fight or flight mode. The melatonin decreases, so your sleep is affected. Blood sugar increases have been noted. The stress response is increased. The immune system is suppressed, so their allergies become worse or more prominent. And then we go into autoimmune disorders. Those are just some of the things that are recognized as an effect of the microwave radiation. There are many others, such as DNA breaks and DNA damage. Another potential risk with RF exposure is cancer and tumors. The latest study from the National Institute of Environmental Health Science, this is our own government, their 10-year study released in late 2018 indicates that heart tumors, brain tumors, and adrenal gland tumors were increasing with the exposure to RF in rats. So let's review the sources of electrosmog. It should be kept in mind that in most cases, when you're going to be overexposed to RF or microwave radiation, it's actually going to be from your own gadgets, not so much from exterior sources. Sure, we have issues with cell phone towers and smart meters, but in a lot of cases, there is much more radiation coming off of people's gadgets than there is from cell towers and smart meters. So the things that you have inside would be your cell phone, your Wi-Fi router, your modems, your wireless printer, again, wireless mouse, keyboard, video games, laptops, and smart appliances. So how do we recognize that our symptoms are caused by RF radiation? Well, they can be very confusing because the same symptoms that we have from RF radiation or EMFs in general are very similar to the symptoms that we get when we're exposed to mold or exposed to chemicals or pesticides or perfumes. So it's confusing. Some of the classic telltale signs would be ringing in the ears, brain fog, headaches and migraines. However, those can cross over to other things that we're exposed to as well. So how do you know that you have electropollution in your home? Well, one thing that you can do is you can measure with a meter, an RF meter or a dirty electricity meter. If you have a router, if you have a cordless printer, a wireless printer, if you have a cordless home phone, you know that you have radiation. The question is, how much and how close to you it is. The general rule is that you want any wireless device to be at least 2 rooms away from where you sleep, and preferably not right next to you when you're working at your desk. So what do you do about this electropollution? Well, first you identify the source, either with meters or by just knowing that you have wireless devices in your home. You then distance yourself, keep 2 rooms away from the device, especially for sleep. And then if you can't do that, for example, if there's a cell phone tower coming into your home, then you have to shield. So there are a couple ways to shield. One is with the shielding paint. It's called Y-Shield. And then you can also use shielding fabric that you can drape over your bed, or you can actually use that fabric for drapes, curtains, so that you're shielding the radiation from coming into your home. If the source is your Wi-Fi router, you can put a router guard or router cage around it that you purchase online, or you can go with Ethernet connections, and you do that one time, then you have no radiation whatsoever. You have a quicker and more secure connection to the internet. Just make sure that you turn off the Wi-Fi on your router. If the problem is a smart meter, you can shield that either with a do-it-yourself gadget, or you can buy a smart meter guard that you place around the smart meter. If the source is a cordless home phone, then switch to a corded phone, or simply switch to your cell phone. People are shocked to find that these cordless home phones emit radiation 24/7 whether they're in use or not. At least your cell phone emits mostly when it's in use. Replace cordless keyboards and mouse with corded items. Electric blankets and heating pads are very high EMF items, so if you're going to use them either for a short duration or just use them before sleep and unplug during sleep. Wireless thermostats emit radiation 24/7. If they're located near a bedroom, they can cause sleep trouble. Better switch to a standard digital thermostat. CFL bulbs actually can emit radiation, so we recommend that people switch to incandescents or halogens or some LEDs. Wireless baby monitors emit high levels of RF radiation, and now analog baby monitors are coming back on the market because mothers are demanding them. And finally, use a radiation-safe headset when talking on your cell phone.